All right, welcome back to Double Fries No Slaw. Richie told me he was good, and then he kept talking to me, so I just went on with it. So blame him for that. But we were on time tonight. Shout out to the people that always give us a hard time for not being on time. They better be here, or at least comment on the video afterward if they're not watching live tonight. But Richie, for the first time, yeah, and Richie goes out as soon as I say that. But I think he can still hear me. For the first time in 400 days, Florida State wins an ACC game. They get to 4-4 by beating the heck out of Wake Forest.
You there, TJ?
Yeah, I'm there. Are you still there? Yeah, I Richie on a new laptop got me all messed up here, but what a start. Let's do some comments. Double Fries No Slaw. Thank you guys for the laughs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Let's we will get after it. But Florida State beats Wake in a weird, I feel like the emotions of the way that last night went down were weird. We're going to talk about that. We'll talk about the game. We'll talk about what's next for Mike. Talk about how things may finish up this year. We got on time, and then something happened with Richie's computer. And so here we are stalling until he gets back. But we'll be around for a while tonight, as long as we need to be for this show to take place and happen. I'm going to. What I would love to know, I'm cracking a cold one, a Diet Dr. Pepper. So maybe not as exciting as what you guys have. We always ask where people are watching from. Y'all are already blaming Brock before we even get to that part of the show. What I would like to know, and I will just quickly here, what I'll do is oh, we've got Richie back. All right, so we'll roll with this. What I would like to know is, I ask a lot where you guys are watching from. What I'd like to know tonight is, are you drinking something? And if so, what it is? Because I'm on a Diet Dr. Pepper, so that's not as exciting as what maybe some of the comments will be. But I don't care if you're just on water or H2O or a soda or a Diet Coke from McDonald's, because they're better there, or a Coke Zero or Powerade. It doesn't matter. Let me know in the comments as we go. And then now Richie is back. I think he's back for good, but we'll see. We're playing it by here on this. Richie, how's your weekend been?
Good. I mean, what a great Saturday, right? Florida State wins this very stress-free game. You know, unfortunately, as a YouTube TV subscriber, I had to pay $5 for a Sling TV one day pass. But I also got to watch Clemson go down. I got to watch Miami go down. I got to watch Florida go down. It was really a great college football weekend.
It was so weird. And we'll get into this in a minute. It's such a weird position to be in, because I don't think anyone's thoughts of the outlook for Florida State football have changed due to the performance last night. We've seen this program at the highest of highs, and we've seen it at the lowest of lows. And truly, that variance is the issue with the program. So we've been so low for like a month that it does feel like the season's already lost. It feels like, well, the best you can do is 8-4, and maybe preseason that would have been fine-ish. Now, I remember saying preseason, Richie, 8-4 is acceptable. 9-3 is what would make me happy. So even if we went out, which I'm not going to predict we do, we'll talk about that more in a minute. It's just such a weird situation or feeling, because you want to be happy about the win. And ultimately, I was happy that we looked as dominant as we did. And at the same time, still very frustrated, because in my opinion, you should still be 6-2 at this point, right? That is my stone cold takeaway, is that there's no excuse for you not beating Stanford. And there's even if you're a 5-3, I think you'd feel a little bit better. And there's really no excuse for losing the other 3 games that you did. Now, the Miami game you weren't really in, but to lose to both Pitt and Virginia as favorites in both, a touchdown favorite in both, just unacceptable. But it's a weird spot that we're in. Something that's not weird. Go to Guthrie's if you're anywhere near Tallahassee, 1818 West Tennessee Street, 2550 North Monroe, and 2870 Appalachian Parkway. We appreciate Guthrie's, as always, for their support. Richie, as we get started, we'll talk about the game specifically. We'll talk a lot more big picture here in a few minutes. But on the game specifically, it was a weird start, no score through the first quarter. And I think a lot of us thought, oh boy, here we go again. Florida State able to break through, able to score again before half. Was it 14-0 at the half? And you felt like, man, and I don't mean to take anything away from Wake. I know a lot of people were maybe confused by their 5-2 record. Wake is not a good team. They beat Kennesaw State by a point. They beat SMU, who, thank God, Rhett Lashley and the boys had a good win yesterday against Miami. They beat SMU by a point. I think most of the ACC is just slop, is what we're learning. Wake is not a good team. And their quarterback, Richie, I think the offense was really, really good. I thought the defense wasn't very good. Their quarterback and penalties were just atrocious. So anyway, first half, a little bit frustrating because Wake just did not play well at all, and Florida State also didn't play well. They hit a couple of shot plays in the first half to kind of get you through, but I'm not going to complain too much in this 40-point win that the Noles had. But they did enough in the first half to kind of hang around. What was your overall impression there?
Yeah, I think they helped us out a lot, right? A lot of self-inflicted wounds by Wake. They had probably close to 90 to 100 yards called back in 2 holding penalties, which, again, I'm not complaining about that, but those plays still happened. I think it was a combination of Florida State. They came off the bye week, and we've been negative the past month or so, but to give credit where it's due, the staff still, it looked like this team was focused. I thought the defense played with passion. I thought like they could have done some things better, but they were out there fighting their tails off. Offensively, I mean, there's nothing. What else can you say about Deuce Robinson and what he brings to this program? He is the offense right now. I mean, and not to take any away from Singleton. Tommy went out there and he fought like a warrior. He ran more than I thought he would. I was very pleased with the effort because honestly, I thought this team had quit. When we spoke Wednesday, I predicted Wake Forest to win this game by a field goal. And while I think it would have been better long-term for the program if Florida State had lost this game, I'm extremely happy for the players on this team because they came out and showed that they have not given up. They're still going to come out and fight every week. They just may not be good enough some weeks, but I was happy to see it. I was mostly happy for the players. I was really happy for Tony White. There was just 2 things that really frustrated me. One, this is the type of score that we should have seen against, Pitt or Virginia even. And I know Virginia's solid. And the other thing that really upset me, because by the time I realized we were definitely going to win, when Brock Glenn goes in and fumbles the ball inside the 20, I was really hoping Tony White would get that spiked baseball, and it was over right at that point.
Yeah, I mean, and to be honest with you, I thought they were going to end up like just kicking a field goal to do it, which is the most cowardly thing you can do when you're losing by 40 points.
Oregon State in a bowl game a few years ago.
Yeah. At Miami in the ACC championship. Like we've seen this done before. I mean, shoot, did we not do that one time against Notre Dame? No, I think we scored 10 in that game against Notre Dame. We did it like in the first half against Notre Dame last year when we lost. Or did we even score? I don't know. Whatever. Let's forget about last year's disaster and move on to this one. Deuce Robinson, you're right. Absolute freak of nature. I'm a little worried about this offense. Like if we are still thinking of like kind of a less big picture and a more game-to-game scenario, I'm a little bit worried about this offense being so boomer bust, not trying to have negative takeaways from a game that the offense looked really good in. But I wonder about that a little bit against other teams. If we can be so successful just chucking the ball up and guys running past defenses, maybe they can, maybe they can't. Deuce, he is ridiculous. And like what he's able to do, he is a junior, and so he can leave. I saw people tweet me today saying that he would have like, I don't know, like a 2nd or 3rd round grade. I don't think he's that good. I mean, like I like Deuce a lot. I think he's a phenomenal college wide receiver. I don't know that he's an NFL like 2nd or 3rd rounder. Like, I mean, Keon went in the 2nd round. I know it was the first pick, but I think we probably need to
speed to be a 1st or 2nd rounder.
Yeah, I think he's I think he's a day 3 guy at best right now. And more than likely, I think he would benefit a ton from coming back, especially, especially with like, I don't know, maybe a more pass friendly system, which I don't know what the system looks like next year. I don't know who the coaching staff is or what. We'll talk more big picture later, but he's phenomenal. He's so great. Sam Singleton, the way he ran last night was so impressive. And I'll tell you, Richie, I've been really impressed with our offensive line this year. I know that they've not been elite by any means, but they've graded out really, really well. I mean, really all of the offense. I know the Stanford game is kind of the anomaly. And then even the Pitt game, you had your top 3 pass catchers down. And so, top 4 if you count Pittman in. But we were really good against the explosive play with the explosive play last night. I thought that was really impressive. I mean, if you have concerns coming out of the game, more than just the big picture, again, not to keep referencing that, but I didn't think the defense was great. I just thought Wake was atrocious offensively. I mean, how many times did they have a wide open receiver pass the sticks and that quarterback, Ashford or whatever, would skip the ball to them like 3 yards ahead of like in front of the wide receiver? There were at least 3 first downs they lost on that. And then I think we were up 21-0 at one point. And they just had a simple slant, like 7 yards. He crosses the defender's face. He's running wide open because our linebackers have no clue what the heck they're doing out there. He crosses somebody's face and drops an easy first down that I think the defender was there and would have made the tackle. But who knows, man? Like he breaks one tackle and he's gone. So I don't think it's a defensive effort issue. I do think it's a scheme. Like I don't think we have the dogs to run a 3-3-5 and we continue to put guys out there. I don't think it would surprise me, to be honest with you. You're talking about Tony White. I don't think UCLA's hired him. I think they'd be crazy if they do. I'd love if they did because it'd save us some money. I'd be pretty surprised if Tony White's back here next year. I don't think that has been a good fit. And I know we were really excited about it this year, but I don't think Mike loves that. Just from some things I've heard, it would surprise me if Tony's back next year. We'll see. But I thought defensively you got saved from the fact that their quarterback sucked and they were a penalty machine. Shoot, they were a fumble machine too. How about the one where Ashford got the first down and fumbled it backwards like 3 yards the other way? And so they didn't get the first down. So even the fumbles that weren't, I mean, there was obviously the fumble that they had way deep in our territory that we took back the other way for several yards. He was just atrocious, man. Like, I don't know why they just didn't have the other kid in there, the Purdy kid.
Yep.
Because when he came in, they at least looked like they had some kind of semblance of we can throw the ball. And it, by that point, the game was over. I mean, you were down by 35 or so points. But I don't know why they didn't start that other kid. Good thing for Florida State they didn't, because, the way that we started so slow, 14 points in the first half was not ideal. But, I thought the defense got bailed out a ton. I mean, he had the one punt pass basically to Earl Little in the middle of the field. You say you're not that impressed with the defense that gives up basically 0 points, if not for the fumble. But I thought the defense, a good offense like Clemson. I know Clemson's got their issues and they lost yesterday to Duke, but Clemson ain't going to make those same mistakes. Clemson put up 45 points yesterday. If that defense plays the same way in Death Valley next week, I mean, granted, their defense is terrible too and gave up 46 points. There will be 100 points scored in that game. Like that is, again, from a game-to-game perspective, the defense worries me a little bit right now.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head, that second layer of the defense. When's the last time you truly, truly trusted your linebackers in their ability when they play? It's just not there. You mentioned the one slant where it was one of the few passes where Wake's quarterback actually threw it right on the money, right in between the numbers, and the guy just drops it. And that's one that could have been a 7-8 yard gain, or it could have been to the house, like either one, depending on if you could make one person miss. There was just, I thought they played with effort and they played with passion, but they do not look like a well-coached defense. Wake just shot themselves in the foot far too many times, and I think that's where that came from. It was certainly not Florida State just came out and dominated defensively. I thought they played okay, but there were a lot of missed assignments. There were, it sounds very cliche to say, because coaches will come out, golfers do this the same way, after a round. I left a lot of strokes out there, and defenses will say, We could have got a stop here and here and here, but you didn't. Like, it's great to say you could have, but why didn't you? If you schemed it up that way, if your players at this point in the season do not understand what is going on, that's the problem.
Yeah, the way that Florida State, here, so let me turn it pretty positive. Two things. They did capitalize on the Wake mistakes. And there were several times, like in the Virginia game, the Stanford game, the Pitt game, certainly Miami too, although I thought Miami made less mistakes against us and saved those all for Louisville and SMU, thankfully, I guess. But there were times in those other games where you would get the other team in like long down and distance situations and your defense just couldn't capitalize, or the offense conversely couldn't capitalize. I thought our defense did a good job. Now, again, some of that had to do with the fact that their quarterback looked worse than, any quarterback we've had here in the last 10 years. Like, I think I'd have taken Constantino over that kid. And so some of that had to do with it. But Constantino brought some things off the field that I thought were pretty special. So if you know, you know. But I think that was impressive by the defense. Like, it wasn't like, 3rd and 16. Yeah, let's go ahead and have a 3rd and white here, where they just give up 14 yards and then the other team gets the other 2 on 4th down or something like that. So I thought they did a good job of that. I will say this about Tommy Castellanos too. For all the doubt and all the negativity around that kid and all the, like, he quit on his team, which I see the super chat in there, and I will get to that. Tommy Castellanos, he's certainly not what I would call elite. I do think his effort is pretty elite. When you look at, just pulling up his stats really quickly here, Richie, he's got 1,800, nearly 1,900 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, 5 picks. And he's also given you on the ground, he's given you another 340. And that's pretty limited because they haven't run with him the same way since he's been injured. He's given you like 2,300 yards all purpose through 8 games. So, he's on pace for like a 3,200 yard season total. I think if you'd have known that at the beginning of the year, you'd been pretty happy with what Tommy's given you. I also think his effort is pretty great. Now, there's some weird stuff still going on. I don't know why we're running him as much as we are, especially on design stuff, because he just doesn't have that burst being hobbled. But the touchdown play, the very first one to get in the end zone and get you off the 0-0 scoreboard. It's just pure effort. And it's not the same kind of effort that he put forward in the Stanford game because he didn't need to be. But I'm impressed with him. He's, of my list of complaints that we have with this Florida State team, Tommy is very, very low on it. And I think he's ultimately been a good pickup. We knew that his health would be a big reason for his success or failure. But I've been very impressed with Tommy. And so my hat's off to that kid for sure, says the guy not wearing a hat. But you understand the thought.
Yeah, no, and it's still up in the air. People, I don't know what you've heard, TJ, but there is a chance he could get an extra year of eligibility next season, but that's not been confirmed or denied yet. I would be shocked if the NCAA would not grant him, because we have guys that are in their 8th and 9th years playing, it feels like, almost every year. So I would love for him to come back healthy. But again, a lot's going to depend on what happens with this coaching staff, who the head coach is, who the coordinators are, if he fits that system or not. But yeah, I've been very happy with Tommy. And you just watch him on the snippets that you can see of him around his teammates. You can tell he cares, right? Yeah. And even yesterday, you could tell he cared, even though they're coming off 4 straight losses. I just really happy with Tommy. I think he's a high character guy, and I think that comes with the maturity, maybe growing up in a lesser program, but always doing everything to get what he had to get done. I think he was a phenomenal addition. We don't beat Alabama without Tommy, so we could be talking about 1-6 ball team right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'll say this on him, and then I'll get to Thorn Super Chat, and then we'll move on from this. But on Tommy, not just the running plays that he can kind of still make happen with his legs. He's still a plus athlete, even though he is a bit dinged up. Just his excitement on that long pass down the sideline to Danzy, or the long pass to Deuce, and he's coming over and he's pulling the arrow and letting that go. And he seemed like he was enjoying himself last night. And there was a lot of narrative around this team that they were quitting, and the reports were that they were making fun of Mike in the locker room, and some of that stuff may have happened. Like I'm not saying it didn't, but it did look like their effort last night was admirable for a team that knew their season was over. Their coach was probably getting fired, and nobody believed in them, and most people don't even care. Shout out to the fans for going. It wasn't a sellout by any means, but it was a good crowd in Tallahassee. It was a good thing. Things started well for the team too. I think, being up 14-0 at halftime. Obviously, it emptied out some as the game went on. But again, I'm really impressed with the team's effort. And on the game, if you just focus on the micro, could not have gone better. Except for, I will throw Thorne up here real quick. Let's see if we can find I don't know what we'll do this one just because it makes me happier.
Touchdown, Florida State! Touchdown, FSU!
Thorne says, let's talk about Brock Glenn's situation. He ruined the whole vibe of the game for me. I was pissed. Really hope he never touches the field again ever. Kevin Sperry is the man. Yeah, okay. So on this situation,
I felt the exact same.
I'm not trying to kill Brock on this, but why are you putting him in a situation where that's even possible? What are we calling with Brock Glenn in the game? So I put half the blame on Brock and half of it on Gus. I don't care that Brock came in, because who knows how many more chances he's going to have with 4 games left. You were in a game that didn't, the last quarter didn't matter. So it's fine that he came in. But why are we calling things that it did ruin the vibe? The spiked baseball would have been cool. For those that don't know, they give a Chip Baker, who was the director of operations and at one point a coach for the baseball team, gives a spiked baseball to the football team, the head coach, anytime there's a shutout. Hasn't been one since 2015. I do think he did something special for the 27-2 win that Florida State had against Florida in the Swamp, because the defense did technically pitch a shutout in that game. I don't know if it was a spiked baseball or if he did half of a spot or something. He did something for that. I can't remember. Maybe it was just a tweet or something. But that sucked. That you were so close to getting it done. So that was annoying. But if that's the biggest problem, that we have with the game, then it was a fairly successful night. So, Richie, any other thoughts on the game before we go to more big picture?
No, I want to finish this on positive vibes. Just happy for the players, because imagine going to class the past month if you're a Florida State football player. After week 1, you beat Alabama, and you're the talk of the town, the toast of the town, whatever saying you want to use, and then having to go through what they went through the past month, and then to come back and to use a word that we know all too well, to respond in that way we saw last night. Honestly, we'll talk big picture in a second, but I legitimately am happy for the players, for what they did last night. Good on them. Seriously.
Before I go on, some of you may notice I'm wearing another one of these campus course shirts. So I met their CEO, Michael, and had, I guess, kind of lunchish. It was more of a coffee, but with him the other day, and we are going to work with them. You can get their stuff at Garnet Gold, or you can go to campuscourse.com, use our code DFNS20. If you get 2 items, you can use DFNS25 to save an extra 5%. We've got some interesting stuff, some fun stuff coming with them this month. I don't want to say what it is just yet, but you'll find out later this week. So Campus Course, little sneak preview of what's more to come. This, I don't know how well you guys can see this on the camera, but this is a speckled Garnet and Gold shirt. You can pick where you want the logo, and you can pick which logo. So if you like the Seminoles that's there on the tan one and you want to put it on this, or you want to put it on the nape of the neck, whatever you want to do, they can get you taken care of. Campuscourse.com, go check them out. And again, I've got some exciting stuff coming with them, some stuff you guys aren't going to want to miss here coming up in about less than a week. So do your Black Friday shopping early with Campus Course. Again, you can get them at Garnet and Gold too, if you so choose. If you're in town for a game, or you're shopping online and you want to get it all in one order. So, Richie, let's roll on to big picture, looking at the rest of the season. So I tweeted this earlier today, mixed reactions, because nobody's in a good mood about anything right now. Florida State has 4 games left, 3 of them on the road. And I'm going to give you these percentages and I want you to give me your immediate reaction after each one of them. But ESPN's FPI projects that Florida State has a 53.8% chance to beat Clemson. They're, according to ESPN, not according to Vegas, they're a 2.5-point dog there. But according to ESPN, Florida State, even though it's on the road, even though they've won one conference game in 400 days, they say that they'll beat Clemson, which for those of you at home, I will be at that Clemson game. Got a big weekend scheduled up there in that area. Thoughts on Florida State being a favorite on the road, according to ESPN, Richie?
Insanity. I like I said, so last segment was our positive segment. Now let's get back to reality. Clemson is not a good team this year, but they have an extremely loyal fan base, right up there with the likes of Nebraska. It will be a sold out stadium for Florida State coming into town, and I just do not see Florida State winning that game.
Yeah, it's high for me. I think this is more of a, so if I had to give it a percentage, I'd say 70-30. Like 70% Clemson wins, 30. Like Florida State's very capable. Like Clemson has just over and over and over. I don't know how many of you guys have watched their games. They haven't had a lot of big games because they haven't been very good. Obviously, that first one against LSU was a big one. They're just not very good. And they consistently find ways to lose games. I know they got screwed yesterday by the refs. I know Dabo said that wasn't the reason they lost. Like, I'm just telling you, like, yeah, they should have won the game earlier. I get it. They got screwed. But I just have a tough time seeing this defense slow them down enough. And I think the offense is going to have to be pretty perfect, and you're going to need Cade to have a bad day. So, not saying it's unreasonable for Florida State to win, but I think 53% for FSU to win that one is crazy. Then you come back home. This seems high to me too. Again, maybe I'm just being a hater, but 85.1% chance to beat Virginia Tech. Now, I'll say this, Richie. I'll go first on this one. I think we beat Virginia Tech. And I said that before the weight game, after Stanford, all that stuff. 85% though, to more than 85.1 to beat VT. Does that seem high to you?
Seems pretty high, but I don't think it's outrageous by any means. Virginia Tech is really, really bad. And Florida State, while they're not a good team, and I don't claim that they are, but I think that they are the better team. They are more talented. I think coaching is probably a wash between these two teams because neither coaching staff is really good. So 85 is a little high. I'd probably go closer towards 70, 75, but I don't think 85 is outrageous.
Yesterday, Virginia Tech lost to Louisville 28-16. They beat Cal the week before that, lost to Virginia Tech the week before that, lost to Wake the week before that. They did beat NC State, who had a big win against Georgia Tech last week. So their results have kind of been all over the place. They lost to Old Dominion early in the year. They got blown out by Vandy early in the year. They got beat by South Carolina early in the year. They're not good, and they don't have a coach. And I suspect that Florida State will still have a coach by the time that Virginia Tech game happens. I don't think Florida State will move off of Mike Norvell until the end of the year, if they do at all. I do think they win that game, but again, 85 seems high to me. This one is crazy too. Listen, I think all these are crazy, just to let you know. 68, let me make sure I'm not reading that wrong. 68.2% to win at NC State. NC State just drug Georgia Tech yesterday at home. And I understand the results of one game don't make or break a year because we saw that week one. But more than a 2-3 chance of beating NC State on the road, Richie?
So with their model, and I get it, they have to have one because everybody has one of these models, right, to power rank teams and whatnot. They don't take into place, nor should one of these specific models, so I understand that, but they don't take into account intangibles. Florida State does not play well in Raleigh. And I know what happened 2 years ago or 4 years ago or 6 years ago doesn't really matter in this year's game. I just do not like Florida State playing up in Raleigh. And I'm going to – I would think that would be closer to a coin toss at best, 50-50. So I think that's way too high for Florida State.
If this game was neutral site, would you think that that is closer to accurate? Like you'd take Florida State 2 out of 3 times?
Yes.
Okay. I'll buy that.
Yes.
I would buy that too. I don't think they're factoring in enough for home field here. Notre Dame or NC State has been fairly good at home, not great by any means, but they've been much better at home. They beat Virginia at home. They beat Georgia Tech at home. They've lost a lot of their games on the road. They lost to Wake on the road. Or no, they beat Wake on the road. I'm sorry. They lost to Duke on the road. They lost to Pittsburgh on the road. They lost to Notre Dame on the road. Sorry, no, they didn't play Notre Dame. I'm just making stuff up. No, they did. They lost 36-7 against Notre Dame. NC State has been so up and down that it's not funny. To beat Georgia Tech yesterday, 2 weeks before that, they got blown out by Notre Dame. They gave up 53 points to Pittsburgh right after Pittsburgh beat us. They are the one of, and Florida State maybe is the same way on this. They are one of the most up and down teams in the ACC. They'll play great one week and terrible the next. I do think something that helps them or helps us or mitigates a little bit, because we're on the road at Clemson. They're on the road at Miami that same week. So this week coming up, while we're at Clemson, they're at Miami. And so both of us will have played like a similar level of physical style game. I would expect Miami beats them, even though I certainly hope NC State does win that game. But I would think that Miami will beat them and rebound from their loss. And so you could have two teams that are desperate to do everything they can to save their coach's job. I wouldn't be surprised if Dave Doran got fired at some point this year. But yeah, I think that percentage is a little bit high. And then I'll tell you the truth, I think this last one's high too. I think all four of these are a little bit high. 46.7% chance to beat UF. So again, essentially a coin flip. Like home field doesn't even account for like 3%. Like that would be more like 10-15% if you flopped this home and away. Do you believe the Florida game's a coin flip the way they looked against Georgia yesterday? Now, maybe Georgia's just overrated. Who knows? But do you think the Florida game is truly a coin flip?
No. And even if Napier, he's gone. But no, I don't think it's a coin flip. I think if I were gauging it, I'd say maybe like 62-38 in UF's favor. You know, we hate Florida. But you and I have both been to the Swamp many of times, even when they're bad. You know, I remember being there in 2013 when we were undefeated and they were 4-7 at the time. That was a raucous crowd in the first quarter. And, you know, Jameis and really Kelvin Benjamin just decided to silence them. And of course, the crowd calmed down a little bit, but that is going to be an extremely tough environment. And if Florida State has the record I think they're going to have heading into that game, you know, if they get punched in the mouth early, it's going to be over. So I'd say something like, 62-38, 65-35 in Florida's favor, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have Florida at closer to that 66. Now, they're a dumpster fire too. Let's be honest. Now, I know their quarterback is not any good. Like Castellanos has legitimately been better than Lagway this year, and that's not even a question, even with being banged up, although Lagway's banged up too. And outside of like a fluky miracle play, I mean, they should have lost to Mississippi State too. I think what'll be interesting is how Florida plays these next three games. Kentucky, Ole Miss, and then Tennessee before they have us, because we're all doom and gloom about our schedule. But I just got a hilarious text. Somebody asked me, did you say fire Mike for letting them score? I know that's not the segment that we're on right now, but we fired Brock Glenn just for the text that I just got. But now this person has just completely derailed my thought train on whatever. Oh, we're all doom and gloom on what Mike, what Mike and Florida State's record might be over the Florida's could be legitimately just as bad. Even if they beat Kentucky, they could lose to the Tennessees of the world and the Ole Miss of the world and be kind of in the same spot we're in. So you just wonder, will they have anything to play for at that point? I saw they just lost, unfortunately for them, their star wide receiver, Dallas Wilson, for the year. They're incredibly banged up. I think Florida State's relatively healthy at this point. Gotten a lot of guys back. And so if you can stay healthy, I think that'll be a game. Like, I don't think either one of these teams is good enough to just blow out the other team. You just have to hope that Florida State can start a little quicker and be a little more effective offensively than they have been early in games. It feels like they come on late, but you kind of need some of that offensive firepower to start working for you earlier than it is. So ESPN's projection, Richie, is 7-5, which is kind of crazy. Like, even if you do it in a win share perspective, like you round up. So it's like 6 and more than 0.5. So they're saying Florida State gets to 7-5. I feel like that's high. What would your record be right now for the end of the year? Like, would you say they find a way to win one of the three, or do you just have them truly winning the one?
5-7.
So they beat Virginia Tech. There's no
bowl.
No bowl. ESPN's higher on the Noles than you are.
No
they're
bowl.
They're two higher than you.
Yeah. No, I think what we saw last night was awesome. Again, very happy for the players, but I just don't think this is a team that's going to respond well to getting smacked in the mouth. And there's a good chance that happens in every game throughout the rest of the season. Now, not to say it week by week, as we do our live shows on Wednesday previewing the games, what happened the week before could not change my mind. It possibly could, but I think you're looking at 5 or 6 wins at the end of the season.
I'm going to go 6-6. I don't know. Maybe it's just the Kool-Aid that I'm drinking. Maybe it's the Dr. Pepper. I don't know. But I'm going to go 6-6 at this point. ESPN's high on us. I'm just going to trust their FPI, which is a trash stat and metric, but it's the easiest one to get to. So here we are. I will quickly just give Tallahassee Ford some love. Hopefully some of you guys out there went by and saw them at the tailgate or the get down or the block party. They'll do it all again for the last game on November 14th on that Friday night and then November 15th for the Virginia Tech game. If you are going to make your way to Tallahassee one more time this year, make sure you go see our friends at Tallahassee Ford. We appreciate them for their support. Richie, last thing here. We just talked about how we kind of thought ESPN had us projected toward the end of the year, what we thought our record would be. Let's say ESPN's right. And let's say they get to 7-5. I want to hear what you would do and what you think FSU will do. So two different kind of questions there, and you take them one at a time. If Florida State goes 7-5, doesn't matter what the win or loss. Let's say they lose to Clemson, win the last 3, but because I don't think that really matters too much. They go 7-5. Should they keep Mike Norvell? And then when you're done answering that one, will they keep Mike Norvell?
No, they should not. If I'm Michael Alford, if I'm the head of the boosters, the board of trustees, I'm already, not today, like weeks ago, started putting out feelers to see who's willing to pony up and let's fund this buyout to make a change at our head coaching position. Because in year 6, what we've seen is unacceptable, regardless of what happens at the end of the season. Now, say Mike does run the table, I think Florida State will keep him for another year, strictly financially, unless you get one big donor to step up and say, listen, we need to make a change. Because I think we all know at this point, Mike is not the long-term answer. So you're going to be paying him regardless. It's just, are you willing to play big boy football and pay another coach as well each year? And I believe his buyout is 85% of his contract. So are you just going to keep paying him 100% of his contract every year until you get a number at the end of a season that feels comfortable? I just don't think, and that doesn't even factor in all the other monetary losses that this program will see between ticket sales, season ticket holders, no longer renewing, the local businesses who also pay a lot of money into the program and boosters and whatnot, like your Madsos and whatnot. I just think if it were up to me, I would let him go. I think right now I'd say 51% chance he's back for next season.
So even with are you saying not 7-5, 51% chance, or with your records at 51% chance?
If we don't go to bowl, I think you have to get rid of him. Like,
right. Yeah. No, I agree with that.
You cannot sell an off season.
Yeah. I just didn't know how you were.
You can't do it.
When this is a good question here by Blake.
7-5, I think he survives one more year.
Yeah. And this worries me a little bit. If they finish 7-5, I mean, you think about the teams that are left on this schedule, and I know we all in our minds, we think about Clemson and Florida as like good wins. Those aren't good wins this year. Like, I'm just telling you, they're not. Now,
No.
would it be somewhat impressive for a team that was as bad as we were for an entire month to find a way to scrap and win? Yes, I will say like those are good wins because we're also not good. But those aren't good wins any given year. Florida is a complete dumpster fire, and Clemson is a complete dumpster fire. Virginia Tech does not have a coach, and NC State, should we beat them and they lose to Miami and then us, they're going to fire their coach too. You could have 3 of your last 4 teams firing their coach. None of those are good wins. I'm just telling you. I don't care if it's on the road. I don't care if it's this. I don't care. These are dumpster fires of programs, all 4 of them. Sorry, Hunter, to talk to about NC State like that. But none of these are good wins. And so there's really nothing they could do through this last month that would change my mind ultimately that Mike Norvell is somehow the guy. Now, they come out, they keep him, and they come out next year and win 10 games. And then in 2027, they win 9 games. And then in 2028, they win 11 games. Yes, at that point, I'll say, look, I'll eat all the crow. He turned it around. He built us into a program that can sustain success more than just the 2 years, right? But I don't think nothing has changed because you just beat the hell out of Wake Forest. Nothing has changed to make me look at this situation and say, oh yeah, now he's the guy. Right. And I don't, against 4 more bad teams, like you're not playing, if you were playing Miami or Notre Dame or Bama at the end of the year, yes, that would be different. But you're playing 4 more bad teams, and there's really nothing that he could do in those 4 games that would make me say,
No.
oh yeah, he's got it all figured out now. Now, that said, if they get to 7 or 8 wins, they're going to kick the can down the road. I don't now 8 wins.
Yeah.
I don't think you should lose your job after 8 wins anyway, whether we like it or not. So winning out, I think he's 98% safe. 7-5, I'm not very happy with. I said before the season, Richie, I said this in the intro, so sorry to say it again, but I said before the season, 8 wins is acceptable. 9 wins would make me happy. And they can't get to 9 wins now. I don't count a bowl game. You're going to make a decision on a head coach before the bowl game gets here, right? Like you're either keeping him or you're firing him. And if you lose the bowl game by 60, you're still not firing him after that. We've had proof of that. So I don't think the bowl game matters for that. And again, 9 regular season wins was my this is what I need to be happy. Now 8 was acceptable. So if you get to 8, I'm good keeping him. If you get to 7 with this schedule, I think the Stanford game, I think the Virginia game, I think the Pitt game, and then whatever you lose down here on the back end, I don't think that's good enough. That's not good enough for the Florida State standard. I don't look at last year as a measuring stick. And Richie, a lot of people say this. I want to get your take on it too. I would assume it's similar to mine. A lot of people say, oh, well, if you get to 7 wins after a 2-win season, think about how big of an improvement that is. And I just want you to listen to how. Listen, if you've said that in the comments, I'm not calling you out because I haven't looked at all the comments tonight. Harlan's not here. Shame on him. Shame on anybody that missed tonight. But shame especially on Harlan, who is in, I think, Bermuda right now and skipping the show. So especially shame on him. If you've got family in town or something and you couldn't catch this live, I'll give you a pass. I'll probably give you a pass anyway. But Harlan's in Bermuda right now skipping the show. So he gets no pass. But I just think about that, Richie. People are saying well, you won 2 games last year. And so 7's a massive improvement. You don't get credit for chopping off your leg and then somehow crawling to the finish line in a marathon in last place. 7 wins is not good enough for Florida State. And using a measuring stick of 2 wins, which is a hole he dug, nobody else dug that hole for him. Nobody else made him win, built this roster into a 2-win season. The idea that oh, well, you won 2 last year, you won 7 this year, that's improvement. No, it's not at Florida State. That's not enough improvement. That's not how this works. You don't get to shoot yourself and then check yourself into the hospital and say, oh, well, I shot myself in the leg. At least I brought myself to the hospital. That's ridiculous to me. So I just don't buy it. I don't buy that 7's good enough. I would let him go if he loses another game. That would be the end of the story to me. You wouldn't, there, no more lovey-dovey, no good feelings. I understand the buyout. I'd say you're out of here. That said, if he wins 7 games, I think Michael Alford kicks the can down the road and saves this for next year's problem, just like they did with Napier last year.
He will. And it's you and I have both worked in the business world. It'd be say you're in sales and your goal is $500,000 for a quarter and you sell $50,000. And your boss says, we need to see some improvement. and then the next quarter you sell $150,000. Like, yeah, I got us an extra $100,000 this year or this quarter. Like, no, you didn't. You've still lost us a net of a lot of money. So yeah, last year should not be a baseline. Like last year, in any other time, any other era of sports where we didn't have these ridiculous coaching contracts, Mike Norvell would have been fired immediately on the field after the last game. Winning 2 games at Florida State, one of them being an FCS win. So you only beat one real team, and even that game was 14-9 against a bad Cal team. Yeah, he should have been fired last year. I get why they didn't, but regardless, if Florida State is doing their due diligence, he needs to be fired after this year. And I get you want to wait till the end of the season. They just got a pretty solid commit today, but end of the day, if you trot Mike back out there next year and you go to Tuscaloosa and lose, 38 to 10 or whatever it may be, I mean, you're going to have a lot of upset fans, and you already have a lot of upset fans, but you're going to have even more.
All right, so what do you think about this? Earl Little and Tommy Castellanos, Deuce Robinson, and then Jabril Rawls. I don't know if you heard the press conferences after the game. I'm a psychopath, and so I watch all of these, which are completely meaningless in coach speak and never bring anything of value. You know what I like watching? I like watching our rivals' coaches when they lose games. I like watching their press conferences. Maybe we should start streaming those on the channel. But did you see Earl and Tommy and Deuce and all them? They got up to the mic and they basically just started fighting for Norvell's job. Blake brought this up in the chat. I think this is so corny. And I get it. They're just fighting for their guy. But like, we're Florida. I mean, my buddy Tony was texting me about this today. We're Florida State, man. You don't have to get up. Like, no athletic director in the country is listening to these kids and cares about what these kids have to say, first of all, about a coach that's underperformed. But we're Florida State. And I get that that's your guy. I get that. But just be happy about the win. Like, I'm not calling out Tommy. I'm not calling out Earl. We were asked about it specifically in the comments. But, man, this is FSU. You ain't got to go up to the podium and beg for this loser. I mean, sorry, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but this guy who has largely been a loser at Florida State, you ain't got to beg for his job, man. This is FSU. Like, we got a different mindset. And I get these kids are different. They didn't grow up in the 90s like me and you, Richie. Like, they didn't see the greatness that once was. They've never understood what Florida State can really be. But, like, that's corny to me. Maybe I'm just a boomer on this. Maybe I'm just an old man. There's enough gray in this beard. Some people, I guess, like the gray in the beard, but there's enough, I don't personally, but if it makes other people happy, whatever, they can make fun of the gray. I don't need this. Just get up there and talk about the win. I don't know. Maybe I'm off base here. Richie, thoughts?
I'm indifferent. I don't blame them. That is their coach. He's the one who brought all of those kids here, or kids, they're men, young men here to Tallahassee. So I get they want to go out and defend their coach because they hear the noise. All of these kids are, their screen time is it's ridiculous what the screen time of even myself. And I'm not going to say it's just them, but that's something that players in the 90s didn't have to deal with. Players in the 90s weren't listening to, the Paul Feinbaum call-in show and things like that, but they see everything on social media. So they love Norvell. And again, Norvell seems like a phenomenal man. He truly does. He loves his players. You can see that. So I get why they would do that. But I also get why a lot of fans will be rubbed the wrong way because they're just sick of seeing what they've seen for the past 2 years.
Maybe I'm just a boomer, man. Maybe I'm just being a jerk about everything. But I also think this is FSU, man. You ain't got to get up there and beg for your coach's job. Like, win games and beat Stanford, and then we wouldn't be in this situation. Yeah. So I wasn't going to rant about that. But so if you're mad at me for that take, blame Blake for asking that in the chat. Blake, you're fired, bro, for asking that. If anybody gets on me for it. So, just really quickly before we get out of here, I will give Sleeper some love. Make sure you use our code DFNS. You get up to $100 match on your first deposit. 100% on your first $100 that you deposit, use code DFNS on the Sleeper app. There's a free play just about every day in some kind of football that's going on. There's like football every day on through the end of the month. So make sure that you are using the Sleeper app for that. Check their terms of use because terms and conditions do apply. Richie, any final thoughts tonight or any shout outs before we get out of here?
I have 2 shout outs. Let's start with our guy, Ryan Fitzgerald, with a walk-off against the Packers today. Huge kick to win it. And, I don't know how I feel about it because the Panthers are in the Bucks division. So I wanted them to lose, but I was really happy that a Seminole made the walk-off kick. And then I want to give a shout out. And I know Florida State did not start this trend, but how it only takes one person to go up into the student section, take their shirt off and start waving it around. And then the crowd just grows exponentially. I just thought that was hilarious. I'm like, good for them. Cause like you're in college, have fun. So if you're one of those people, shout out to you.
Shout out to the people that are taking their clothes off at the game. That was Richie's last shout out. Listen, I know that this is primarily football. I know that's what most people care about. The soccer team plays in just over an hour in the semifinal of the ACC championship. If they win that, they go on to the ACC championship, which they've won a billion years in a row. And so if you're not watching football or you're tired of football for the weekend, maybe just keep an eye on the FSU soccer game here at the end of the night. Should be a fun one. And then they will almost certainly be at home for the maybe the first and the second rounds of the NCAA tournament. So shout out Coach Penske and the girls. And let's get a win against Virginia tonight. If you, I will be tuned into it. So if I'm the only one, then I'll watch it. So that's all I got for tonight. Appreciate those that support. Appreciate you guys in the comments. Always going back and forth, and glad that we could get to the comments that we could get to tonight. Thank you guys, as always, for the support. We'll be back live on Tuesday. We'll do a call-in show on Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. So join us for that if you'd like to call in and rant and rave about anything that's gone on. And then we'll be back Wednesday night to preview the Clemson game. Richie, I do want to win that. I know that we're all doom and gloom, but I would really like to beat Clemson, especially because I'll be there. I'd like to be in a good mood that game. Listen, you know what? I'm going to say this. I'll be in a good mood either way that night, but I'd really like to have a win as well. So I would really like for Clemson to find a way to drop another game to us because we just don't beat them enough. So thank you guys for tuning in.
I either want us to win the game or lose by 50.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No in between for Richie. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon. Gunnels.